Hello, everybody. My name is Gareth Millward, and I've just been bullied because apparently I don't know what a compressor is. I'm joined with Frederick Olsen and Trolls Plymouth on the After Dark special, and we're talking about breaking the fourth wall. What I wanted to talk about, after I got out of my very bad British DJ voice, and a lot of British DJs in the 1970s are probably not the kind of people that you want to associate yourself with. I am going to... one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the concept of kayfabe, which is kind of in the realms of professional wrestling, and this idea of blurring the boundaries between something that you know is a show but might be real, but isn't real, but might be real.
I thought it was about ethics and games journalism.
It's always about ethics and games journalism. I just thought that needed to go unsaid.
Oh, sorry.
You SJW.
And one of the things that I've really always enjoyed about that kind of art form is that kind of playing with things. But as a historian,
Ding.
Ding. As a historian, I've always been quite aware of how these things go in and out of fashion. And one of the things,
It's not funny anymore.
I'm so sorry. I'll try to listen.
No, but one of the things over the past 4 or 5 years, 10 years maybe, has been that a lot of TV shows and movies have kind of gone down that route of using sort of meta and fourth wall breaking almost to replace actual storytelling. And it's one of the things that maybe hasn't seeped into adventure games so much, but is definitely there. And I just wanted to gauge your guys' reaction on how you think this sort of thing ought to be done, really.
I would say I'm watching the new X-Files episodes that are coming out on Fox right now, and even though I dearly love seeing David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson back together, huge X-Files fan, they do seem to be adding a lot of in-jokes in the episode that came out most recently at current time of recording was episode 5, and there's a knock on the door. They're in Mulder's office in the basement. There's a knock on the door, and I think someone outside the door just asks, "Who's in there?" And Scully goes, "Oh, only the FBI's most unwanted. I've waited 20 years to say that. Har har." And
there was another one a couple of episodes ago, and I hope you won't mind me saying this, Gareth. And incidentally, if you want to watch the X-Files totally unspoiled and you're listening, best turn off now. But
I haven't watched a single episode of X-Files since it began, so
you'll be fine then. Well, anyway, a couple of episodes ago, there was a scene in which Mulder's cell phone rang, and his ringtone is the X-Files theme. And
fuck off.
I think it's kind of funny, but it's too cheap.
Oh, then there's another one in the same scene. There's a gravestone that they're having this long conversation in a graveyard, and the gravestone has Kim Manners on it, and Kim Manners was a producer and director of the original run of the X-Files, and he is sadly dead. But that was another throw in, and there was one where Scully. Mulder says, a suspect is getting away. Mulder says, "No, I don't do stairs. I'm not going to chase him." And Scully just goes, "I used to do stairs in 20-inch heels or 6-inch heels or whatever." So yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
And it's kind of endearing because it's been 20 years. But at one point, whatever makes us endearing is gonna run out.
Yeah, exactly. So I do like what Gareth is bringing up about what was it, kowtow, whatever. I have no idea what that. I have no idea what that even means. But just to stroke my own flesh noodle for a bit, that's actually what I
You never
really
stopped
like.
doing that, did you?
No, I don't. That's one of the things I wanted to do with the Space Quest Historian podcast to begin with.
It's one of the reasons why I love that show.
Really? Oh, someone else is stroking my noodle.
Other than the fact that I'm on it, the other thing that I loved about it was that you really played with that idea of, is this a show? Is it real? I mean, the entire thing that you encourage me and Serena to do, for example, was based completely around, oh, hold on, is this actually happening?
Yeah, and there were actually a lot of people a certain disgraced game developer in particular who actually thought that Pete Toll was a real person. And I've had to explain to a lot of people actually that Pete Tolman is not real. You shouldn't pay too much attention to what he's saying.
I thought he was real. If you try looking up my Twitter and Pete Tolman's Twitter, there's a certain heated exchange exactly when the guy got public.
Well, this was exactly what I wanted that character to be. I love this kind of stuff.
And that was because I had other characters on, like the Steve bot, which is Steven Alexander, just put through a mangler, just playing different voice clips of him sort of out of order, and all this sort of sense. And I really got that inspiration from The Daily Show, where you have these correspondents who are, you can tell they're reading from a script, but you really also can't. I mean, because in the framework of the show and its political leanings, that these aren't really right wing nutcases or anything like that. Stephen Colbert being a very, very obvious example, but they do play with the format in the sense that this is a news and they're talking about real event news, but they're twisting it in an angle where you're not really sure if this is real or not. Okay, that's a stupid way to put it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I completely get it, and that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that I really like, and I think it's the kind of thing that games could do very well. I think though you need a tight control of your narrative, and that's one of the reasons why adventure games could be the medium to do this quite well. Is that adventure games, historically at least, and because of the format of them, have been able to keep a tight control of the narrative. You're not going to be able to do it so well in an open world RPG stroke first person shooter like, for example, Grand Theft Auto, although Grand Theft Auto had its own elements of that. But with an adventure game where you've got some kind of control over how the narrative plays out, adventure games could do this really well. It's just a case of finding the right story and the right way of telling it.
Well, Assassin's Creed did kind of fuck with the player's head in that you've got this story of a guy who's a modern-day assassin who is being imprisoned by Templars, and he's being forced into this device, which I can't remember the life of me what it's called, the Animus or something, and he's being transported back in time. I mean, he's got genetic memory of his ancestor who was an assassin, apparently, and he's kind of being forced to relive what his ancestor experienced through his eyes. And you've got these two separate stories. In the end, though, they kind of converge. You get these little blips implying that there were people here before you who went through the same ordeal, and they left marks. And the assassin in Renaissance era Italy is also seeing these little hints that shit, not everything is right here. Receiving messages from the future, essentially. So there's this little bit of back and forth. I mean, it never evolves to the point where the player is in on it, but there is this little bit of fucking with the formula, and certainly fucking with the heads of the characters.
I do like that a lot. And actually, you reminded me now of an example that I wish I'd brought up on the main episode itself, but it's not an adventure game. It was the GameCube game Eternal Darkness, where you have the sanity meter, and it's a survival horror game. So when you inevitably encounter things that are really freaky and hideous, in this case monsters of all kinds, and every time you do that, your sanity meter goes down. So you have to keep track of the character's sanity meters. If it goes down, then the game starts to fuck with you in a very fourth wall way. It will pretend to erase your memory card. It will tune the volume up and down on your TV, or it will pretend to, at least. And there's a boss character in the game that'll read off your memory card and go, "Oh, you seem to like this in this game, and then pretend to erase the save content of that game and stuff like that. I mean,
Amnesia did something like that, but it never went to fourth wall breaking. You just hallucinate and then you die.
Did you bring up this game with relation to the way that a plot can change based on your own actions?
No, because I don't think the game actually does that. But in terms of fourth wall breaking, you don't get much more fourth wall than a game pretending to erase itself.
No, that's true.
And Undertale does something similar. I've already mentioned this, but the save game mechanic in the game is actually a superhuman power in the game, and other characters also have save game mechanics that they can exploit. So some characters are aware when you load games, and when you get to a certain ending in Undertale. It will actually once you close the game and then come back to it, days later perhaps. If you start the game up, then there's just a black screen. And you sit there and wait, and the music's all ominous, and then a character appears and goes, "Are you sure you really want to start the game again? All the characters are so happy." Or conversely, all the characters are dead. Do you really want me to bring them back so you can put them through all that misery once again? Just spoil the game, really, really a lot.
I would have loved to have played it before you said that. I can probably live.
The excitement of the game actually doing that to you is much more palpable when you're actually experiencing rather than have some idiot on a podcast tell you.
I don't know, the more that I hear about this game, the more I actually want to play it, but that would involve some form of forward planning, which is not what I'm capable of. Well, the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I realise that we're already about 10 minutes into the After Dark episode, and that
we've got about 50 of them,
and that some of us have already been doing other podcasts this evening.
Who cares?
Was
the other podcast? Don't mention the war.
The other aspect of fourth wall breaking, which is the unintentional fourth wall breaking, where something is so bad that you're immediately thrown out of any idea that you could suspend your disbelief. And I wondered
Discworld.
Okay, go.
I was just going to say, no, it that comes back to moon logic in general. I just went Discworld. It's sort of a knee-jerk reaction when you come across a puzzle where it's not as much, you delving into the story, delving into the main character's head, trying to figure out, okay, how would this guy solve this puzzle? When it's just the designer fucking with you. When it's just you go, oh, what in the fuck does this person want from me? And in this case, the designer itself.
Can I just interject something? I love the tone of voice that you, and this is constant. You always say the designer fucking with you in exactly the same tone of voice, and it's like this. I can almost just picture you grabbing onto someone and just thrusting yourself into them. The designer is fucking with you.
It's like years of trauma from playing bad adventure games, and Discworld is certainly up there because it has these moon logic puzzles where you just go, fuck you, that is not what that object does in real life. And no one says anything. Okay.
I'm still kind of lost in the train of thought of the designer fucking with you.
Let me bend over so you can really.
I guess it depends on which designer it is.
Well, no, but I kind of agree with that. You get into some positions and you just feel that this that this doesn't have anything to do with any kind of game. This is, I mean, Tex Murphy, for example. I mean, Tex Murphy is always based around sort of a lot of the things that they do in that are logic puzzles. And I mean, in Pandora Directive, it's very obvious that this is a logic puzzle, but there's some sort of internal, I don't want to use the word logic, but obviously it's internal logic to why that logic puzzle would exist to break into a box or to get into a room or
open a door, which has been secured by the police.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, somebody would have left that behind so that they, if they'd forgotten, they'd perhaps understand what was going on. And one of the things that kind of came up sort of in the main show and has come up here as well, I mean, is Tesla Effect, where there are certain points of Tesla Effect where you go, okay, yeah, I can understand how this logic puzzle fits into the story you're trying to tell. And okay, maybe it's a little bit forced, but okay, I get it. But then there are other times where you're just sort of sat there and you're thinking, this was the only way you could think of to further this plot. And I don't understand why you bothered.
Yeah, exactly. And there are times for instance, the whole thing in Pandora Directive with the cop lock puzzle where you have to get into Rusty's
which
thing
should be called the cock block puzzle.
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is. Not cop block, cock block.
The argument that Tex or not, sorry, the explanation that Tex gives you for having to beat this puzzle is you've just been given a key to the place by Mac Malden, the detective. And then you come up to the door, and Tex goes, "Oh, I should have asked him how to break this. Oh, well, I guess I'll just figure it out." Fuck you, buddy. I've got a quick travel icon. Let's go.
Go back.
That's like the poorest excuse to throw a logic puzzle at you, I would say.
Basically, he was just being lazy and then deciding to do something which is ultimately more taxing than just driving back to Mac Malden.
Which one's the fourth ball?
But
I don't want to break it.
But he still deserves to be in the Guinness fucking Book of Records.
Exactly, and I will say for in Pandora Directive's defense, all the other logic puzzles, frustrating though they may be, they actually do have some rhyme or reason within the game story itself.
Oh, I thought they were brilliantly integrated. I mean, you could tell that that's what the game had designed it to do, but they made sense within the rules of the universe in which you were playing.
Mm. Well, I'm out of ideas.
So I
yeah, should we fuck off?
Yeah, I need to go do cocaine.
Oh, sure. I need to go and see if my wife still loves me.
Probably not.
The answer's no.
Yeah.
Just delay it as long as possible.
Yeah, Gareth is speaking from experience. Well, I certainly am.
Dear God, that
Banter.
Ooh, yeah.
Bants.
Comedy first.
Comedy.
So just to finish this off on a high note, we did mention during the episode itself, cunt bubble. Should we just? I dearly need to ask you this question to you guys on the air.
Go ahead.
What is a cunt bubble? Is it a cunt that blows bubble, or is it cunt juice that has leaked into your mouth and is blowing bubbles in your throat? Your choice. Go.
I don't know, but you can catch him in Sherlock on BBC. Now, he has more of a posh British accent, doesn't he? Cunt bubble bunny snatch.
Well, he went to Eton, dear boy. He went to Eton.
So he fucked a pig. But Fred and I... this...
That is... Apparently that's British for I fucked a pig. I went to Eton.
I went to Eton, fucked the pig, and became Prime Minister.
I went to Eton and starred on Sherlock Holmes.
But Fred and I, we speak English as a second language, and Gareth purportedly speaks it as a first language.
My English is perfectly fluid, thank you.
Yes, so is mine. I totally speak the language very well.
You're very good at the English language, yes.
But we should get a clear definition of cunt bubble, and I think we should turn it over to the guy who is the most educated and also speaks the language perfectly. Gareth.
Gareth, what is a cunt bubble?
I always assumed that it was kind of a bit like a vart.
Yeah.
A what?
A vart. Which is a vaginal fart. Well, I mean, surely you must know what vaginal farts are.
Yeah, but that's called a queef.
Yeah.
Or is that Canadian? We should ask Brian.
It does sound kind of French, doesn't it? Le queef.
Well, La queef. I get that from the South Park episode.
You never ever want to confuse quiche and queef, because that'll make for some pretty awkward dinners.
That'll be an interesting date at a restaurant. Yes, I'll have the queef.
I want the queef La Lorraine. I actually saw a cutout of a restaurant menu on the internet the other day where someone was advertising a dish which had herpes de Provence in it.
Yes, if you want to go for herpes, please do get it from Provence. It's the finest herpes in the world. If you
do want to get herpes, please do get posh herpes.
Yes.
Get it.
I'm a connoisseur.
Either get herpes de Provence or get it from fucking a pig.
And on that bombshell, I think we're done here.
Yeah,
I think we are. Goodbye, people. Goodbye.